Greetings, loved ones. Domestic violence is a deadly cycle. The 4 stages of abuse will continue until you stop them by leaving or by dying. Help us get these messages out. Please subscribe to our channel, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, hit that like button and also the notification bell, and share these messages with everyone you know. You never know, just by doing so you could save a life. There's a certain script domestic violence follows, and survivors know it well. Most advocates will attest that abusers are not impulsive or out of control, but are rather rigidly in control. Pardon. They carefully plan and they calculate their abuse, be it subtle forms of control or threatening acts of violence. As such, survivors fall into a script of their own. They begin repeating the lines over and over to themselves and to friends and families until the familiar phrases begin to sound like a broken record, like, "Oh, it'll never happen again. He says he's really sorry. It's my fault. I made him angry. I should be a better partner." Or, "He's just stressed out right now. He's only controlling because he loves me." In some circles, this is referred to as the cycle of abuse or cycle of violence, a 4-stage pattern that abusive behavior can take sometimes hundreds of times over and over. An abuser might cycle through these 4 stages in anywhere from a few hours to a few days to a few weeks to a year or even more. The cycle was first introduced in 1979, but since then, some advocates argue that the tool has become a little outdated, instead referring to a more updated visual aid called the power and control wheel as a better depiction of the abuse. Either way, still, the cycle continues to resonate with many survivors, and its overall message is clear. Domestic violence is destructive, ongoing, and is relentless. It's a situation, and round and round and round you go, and where it stops, no one knows. The cycle of abuse, I don't mean to be flippant about it, but I just kind of want to make this stick with you, so forgive if that sounded flippant. It wasn't meant that way. The cycle of abuse suggests that there are 4 states to abusive behavior. First, the tensions build, and the survivor starts becoming nervous, doesn't know what to do. They'll become fearful. They may feel it's their duty to placate the abuser. And then next, there's an incident. This can be verbal, it can be emotional, psychological, or physical abuse intermixed with anger, threats, and intimidation. And after this comes the reconciliation, which is the excuse stage. The abuser apologizes, blames the survivor, or denies the abuse occurred at all, which is gaslighting, and we talked about that. And finally, there comes the calm stage. This is the incident. This is the moment where the incident has been forgiven. And for a while, things seem to be back to normal, sometimes even better than before. Survivors often refer to this as the honeymoon stage. Until, of course, the 1st stage starts all over again, tensions build, and soon another incident occurs. What's scariest is the length of the cycle usually diminishes over time, bringing abusive incidences closer and closer and closer together. What might used to have been he only does it once a month, now it's twice a month, then it's once a week, then it's every other day, and then you never know when he's going to do it because it could be at any moment. This reconciliation and calm stage can disappear completely, leaving only violence behind, where every day is filled with violence. And many survivors are either too ashamed or too fearful to leave their abuser, convinced that they've now let it go on too long, or that it was their fault that the abuse started in the first place. Other survivors may be convinced that they are in love with their abuser. Yvette Lozano, she is the Director of Intervention Emergency Services with the nonprofit Peace Over Violence. She states that survivors feel like the abuser is a person they can change. This is not love. It's called traumatic bonding. Love is one of the barriers that survivors can face when they're trying to leave an abuser. Sarah Buell, a professor at ASU's College of Law, she says that wanting the good times to come back, a survivor may believe they need to try harder to please the abuser, or they may rationalize that the abuse is only one aspect of an otherwise good relationship. Lozano says that the cycle of violence is something that can be passed down to children as well. She says, children witness this growing up and they feel like this is normal and this is how relationships are supposed to be. That's why we need to educate teens so they know what a healthy relationship is and what's not. With 1 in 3 women experiencing domestic violence worldwide, the question is not if you will encounter a victim of violence. The question before God is, what will you do when you do encounter them? You could be the person who saves a life. You are called. We are all called to be champions for justice. And those who suffer violence, they need to know that those who love them and even those who don't even know them will step out, reach out to them, and give them the help and the courage they need to leave before it's too late. Help us get these messages out, because the goal is that people who are suffering violence recognize it and know that there's a way out, or those who are not suffering violence are able to recognize victims of violence. So subscribe to our channel, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, hit that like button, hit that notification button, and share these messages with others, because you never know, just by sharing a message with someone, you could save their life. If you're a victim of violence, I want you to listen to me. You are valued, you are loved, you're intelligent, beautiful, and God does not want you to suffer violence. He wants you to live free from violence in peace and tranquility. There is a way out, and it's not your fault. Abuse is not love. If you're a victim of violence, reach out to someone. If you find yourself in a dangerous situation, call 911 for help. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about how abuse almost always escalates. And until then, God bless you.